Welcome to the PropTech Podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. So the aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and to explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. And my guest in this episode is Peter Brewer, President of the Real Estate Institute Queensland, a real estate trainer and a long-time Inman ambassador. Now, Peter has been a long-time advocate for agents to get better at embracing technology and the need for real estate to become more consumer-friendly. For over a decade, he has brought home what he's learnt from overseas conferences like Inman and shared new techniques for marketing, social media, and adopting tech. And he's also been extremely generous with his time to PropTech startups, waving the flag for Aussie innovation at Inman and connecting a lot of people behind the scenes over a beer and a yarn. Now, Peter is a champion of equality and diversity in the industry, and together with REIQ CEO Antonio Mercarella, has been instrumental in shaking up not just the REIQ, but REIs generally. And this year, with COVID-19 forcing all conferences to go online, Peter's been working hard to increase the Australian content and influence at Inman. Peter Brewer, welcome to the PropTech Podcast.
Hey, what an honour to be here, Kylie. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, I'm looking forward to our chat.
Me too. Yeah. I can't wait to hear what I've got to say.
Might surprise both of us.
Absolutely.
So look, Pete, we always start with your elevator pitch. So what is the Peter Brewer elevator pitch?
Oh my goodness, Kylie Davis, I can't remember the last time I actually had to pitch for something. What's my pitch? I reckon I am one of those lucky old dinosaurs that was lucky enough to inhale this whole new world in about 2008, 2009. So I've been able to blend lots of the old and lots of the new. And sometimes the old crusties like me think, well, if that fella can do it, we can do it as well.
You're allowed to swear on this.
Yeah. I think I've got that benefit that I can bring a wise old head who's got lots and lots of years of real estate experience into this brave new world of opportunity. And lots of people look at that and go, yeah, well, if he can do it, it makes sense to me too.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your backstory. So how did you get into real estate, and how did a boy from the bush become the president of REIQ?
That's a really good question. How many hours have we got for this? Just grab yourselves a pillow and let's get talking. Kylie, I started my real estate career in about roughly 1980 from a real estate family on the Bayside in Brisbane. Families always had a passion for real estate, and you kind of, once you're in it, it's really hard to get out of that. In fact, when I first applied, I was actually working in a Ray White office. It's where I started my apprenticeship, and Dad had a professionals office on the Bayside. We were competing. And anyway, I said to Dad, look, any chances of a job with you? And he said, oh, well, you can come over and apply. So I went over, and mind you, I was living with Mum and Dad at that stage. But he said, you can apply for a job with us. So I went over and applied for the job and filled out all the paperwork. And he said, ring me tomorrow and I'll let you know how you went. So I rang him the next day. I said, Dad, how'd I go? And he said, well, had you had any attention to detail, you would have seen that on the back of that form, that application form, was the requirement for 3 references, and you didn't complete the references. So should you like to come back and complete the paperwork correctly, I'll have a look at your application again. And what he was doing was showing to me, what he was saying to me was dotting the I's and crossing the T's is really, really important. So I dutifully went back and I filled in the application form correctly that next day. He's 24 hours sat on it. All of a sudden, I was the proud new salesperson in a real estate office in Manly and Brisbane. Fantastic.
I hope you put him down as a referee.
Yeah, we worked together then for the next roughly 30 odd years. And it was an amazing relationship, and working with Dad and then finally buying the business. He said, well, I'm going to sell the business. And I thought, well, of course, I'll take it over. He said, no, I'm going to sell the business. Here's the valuation. Pointed me towards the Commonwealth Bank and said, good luck with your loan. So, and then I'd been spoilt, that was after about 15 years working together. I then bought the business, we tripled in size and loved every minute of it till about 2008. So after 30 odd years of real estate, I became, Kylie, grumpy, cranky old man that you walked into that real estate office and went, who is that venomous old bugger? And I thought, it's time to get out when you're looking at people cynically. So I jumped out, retired, sold a business, planned to put my feet up on the teat to spend my ill-gotten gains. And along came this thing called the GFC and a few other life changes. And the next thing I was back into real estate, but this time in the technology piece. So instead of being the practicing real estate agent, I then went on and spent a bit of time in the States where I met my lovely partner, Tara, and looked at the web and the early days of Facebook and video and all that stuff and went, here is such a magnificent opportunity for the real estate industry to embrace this stuff, because if they don't, they're going to get run over. And I'll let history determine whether they got run over or whether they embraced it. But I've spent the last 12 years of my time running around Australia, New Zealand, a little bit of the United States, educating the real estate industry on the effective use of technology. That's me.
Yeah, fantastic. And so how did you become an Inman ambassador, and how did that affect your career? So from that tech side.
Great question. I became an Inman ambassador. I went to an Inman in 2011 in San Francisco. Now, prior to that, I'd been to several NAR conferences, and they were great, but they were conferences of 22,000, 25,000 people. Wow. And whilst they were good events, I felt that there was not enough in the way of new technology, new things for us to look at. And then I heard of Inman, so I went along and I just clicked. It was just, I found my tribe. I found the people that I wanted to be with, people that looked at a new way of doing business, a new way of real estate, and it just clicked for me. And met Brad and the team, and I think within 18 months I was an Inman ambassador, and have been ever since. Very proud to carry that banner. And how has it affected my real estate career or my business career? Enormously, enormously. The partner I'm with now, Tara, is a byproduct of that. Most of my great relationships are with Inman people from across the globe. So it's been magnificent for me. Kylie, what it's done is it's kept me, I think, in my perspective, probably a couple of years ahead of the pack in terms of what I see going on in the industry. And I kind of chuckle a bit when I hear people saying, well, video's the next big thing.
You and I have been talking about video for 100 years.
Facebook ads are the new big thing. Really are they? That's fascinating. But here's this thing, and it's, and it's a really interesting piece, is our industry is so slow on the uptake, and we bitch and moan and groan about all these disruptors taking our market, but we don't listen to the people who are saying, this is where you should be. We get stuck in that old world of, that's the way we've always done it around here. And so that's the biggest challenge that you and I have seen, I think, for the real estate industry, is embracing change and being prepared to have a crack at new things. And I absolutely delight in having a crack at doing new things.
For almost 16 years, Direct Connect has made moving easy for over 1.2 million renters and homeowners by arranging connections to a wide range of services, from electricity and gas to internet and pay TV. With a national team of local account managers who are experts in the industry, they will be here to support your business, including competitive rewards for every successful connection. Direct Connect's industry-leading rewards program means partners will reap the benefits of the unique rewards program while adding value to your business. The connection process is simple, and Direct Connect's always-on guarantee ensures your customers' connections are always the top priority. They take care of your customers with guaranteed connections that ensure their services will be connected on the day they move in. A choice of a range of market-leading suppliers, and peace of mind for everyone with a local call centre contacting customers within 24 hours of receiving their application. Direct Connect has also made it easier than ever to send connections, recently integrating with MRI Software's Property Tree. In just a few clicks while processing a tenancy, you can send the connection details through and get your customers connected. To make the right connection and find out how Direct Connect can make moving easy for you and easy for your customers, visit agents.directconnect.com.au or call 1300 558 169. For all information about the Always On Guarantee and full terms and conditions, visit directconnect.com.au/Always On Guarantee. So we know that, that there's a bell curve of change, and that there are people who are early adopters and innovators, and then there's the kind of big majority in the middle. What are you seeing at the moment that the majority are kind of getting their brains around, like you said before with video? What is the technology that is becoming mainstream now?
Oh, I think it's the 360 and the 360s and the VRs, virtual reality stuff. Videos. It was fascinating there was the second or third week of COVID when REA opened the doors to video for property more so and said, we're going to put more emphasis on video. We're going to make it easier for people to engage with. And in that first week, Kylie, there were just short of 40,000 videos uploaded by the real estate industry to realestate.com.au. Now, here's an industry that for the last 9 years have been coming up with all of the soft excuses on why they're not going to use video. All of a sudden, when there was no other choice, jumped on board and said, we're going to do video. I was talking to our mutual good friend, Steve Carroll, a few weeks ago, and Steve said, and wisely so, he said, Peter, by the end of 2020, we're going to be where we probably would have been by 2025 if COVID hadn't come along. So the industry was forced into change if it wanted to be relevant, I guess, to what the consumers have been crying out for a long, long period of time.
Because a lot of these changes like video, like virtual tours that we're seeing and online auctions or online negotiation platforms, these are things that have fantastic consumer benefit, aren't they? Like these are things that make life easier for buyers and sellers. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if there's one lesson that will come out of this, and I was talking to a good colleague this morning saying, Winston Churchill, and I heard this 3 times last week, never waste a good crisis. And here's this opportunity. My greatest fear, it's true, is this crisis that we're in has all of a sudden forced us to change. My only prayer is that we don't go back to the bad old ways again. We've seen how consumers, and look, the stats are like 400% growth in the use of video and the appreciation by consumers of video. It's massive. And so we've got to start understanding if that's what the consumers get their rocks off about, then we've got to feed that greed. We've got to feed that want and not go back to, I'm not doing video because the camera puts on 20 pounds. I'm not doing video because I've got to cut the crap. Let's look after what the bloody consumer wants. You actually might sell some more real estate and be a whole lot better and more attractive to the consumer base that's out there. So, I'm really excited that there's this opportunity for us all to go, well, that was a wake-up call. Now let's catch up and keep going, not just find this as a little short-term thing where we changed what we did for a few weeks, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that I've been quite surprised at how resilient the industry has been through all of this and how when push came to shove, they did actually embrace a whole pile of things that they were previously uncomfortable about. And I was talking to Anton Bavkov before from Rex, and he was telling me about the extraordinary uptake of their training when that, during the first round of COVID, and how suddenly agents were open to the idea of, no, we need to do things differently, and now's the time to embrace it. What do you think?
So look, interesting point about Anton and the take-up of that training, because I witnessed some of that stuff that Rex were doing. And I think there's a couple of things. Number one, our industry, there's 3 things. Our industry are great survivors. And so we're always looking for ways to create a deal. Number 2, we had more time. And number 3, when threatened with potentially being run out of town, we say, holy hell, we need to get back to those basics and learn how that bloody CRM works. And so everyone's sitting there, I've said of most CRMs, they're just really, from an agent's perspective, most of them are just a really, really expensive uploader to realestate.com. Most CRMs by most agencies up until recent times are only ever used as an uploader. No one ever, or very few agents rarely ever use them for all of the bits and pieces that are in them, all the bits and pieces. It's like a Microsoft Word subscription. We only ever use 5% of the tool. We don't use all those other things that are in the drop-down lists. And I think faced with saying, how do we survive this? Agents, and they had time, said, well, we better understand more about it. And what Rex had done had tailored that training over 7 or 8 days with some really good content, and people went, holy hell. So, a few things there. But, when survival is what you've got to focus on, then you go out and learn the tools or you disappear.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see how that has affected the market. So Anton, I've got my train of thought back now. So Anton and I were talking about what the experience for Rex had been like with their clients in the UK versus what the experience had been like for their clients in Australia. And he was saying that the difference between the Australian and the UK market was in the UK, they shut down everything completely in real estate. There was no transactions, all in-process transactions were put on hold. There was absolutely no way to do any kind of inspection. Everybody's staff were furloughed. That's it, shut down until this week, basically. And I guess what the real estate industry has shown is that in Australia is that by behaving the way that we did, by embracing the technology and not being stupid and pushing against it and showing that we could adapt and could adopt, we were able to keep transacting, we were able to keep transacting through it. And even though transaction volumes have fallen off considerably, they're not completely disastrous, and we haven't just turned off the tap for a period which would have been completely disastrous.
It's interesting, Kylie, and I think Anton's right. And there are some differences, obviously, between the way business is transacted in the UK and up here, of course. But, I think it's interesting talking to Jason Rose last week, and Jason said, Pete, I'm seeing two tribes. He said, I'm seeing the tribes where the business owner or manager has kept the staff's head in the game. They've been there every day saying, what are we doing? What are we doing? Getting a focus on where we're at. They're not letting the brain cells go outside all the other negativity. They're saying, what prospecting, what closing, what offers, what are we doing? As opposed to the others have gone, oh, well, game stuffed. Put the queue in the rack. Game over. I better go on. I better go and get my job keeper. And so I think there are those two schools of thought and those two mindsets. And certainly what I've seen, and Jason was saying the same thing. So, those that have been fortunate enough to either had a good mindset or a good business manager, absolutely saying, keep going, have probably done very nicely out of this.
Yeah. So what do you think we should be taking out of it into the future or into our transactions going forward? It's got to be more than just virtual tours and videos, don't you reckon?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, consumers want a simpler, smarter, better way to do business, and we've been given all those things. It's now about for each of us to sit down and say, yeah, absolutely. And it's for each of us to sit down, and probably as an industry to sit down and say, how do we make that stuff happen? I've just been through the process of selling my dad's house, and I have to say the agent I used was magnificent, but the legal process was a friggin' nightmare. Just absolute bureaucratic bullshit that just shouldn't be anywhere near what is a simple experience. And so I think there's a whole range of things that we as an industry, whether it's working with the Law Society, whether it's working with other players, how do we get all that stuff on a dashboard that just makes it a simpler thing? Why is it that I can go into Wallet Wizard, on an app and go, and make an application, have $10,000 cash in my bank this afternoon? I haven't, but you could do that. And then there's all this crap that we go through in the real estate space, whether it's for applying for a tenancy or listing a property or whatever. So, what do we do? I think we probably get together as a collective across the industry and say what worked, what didn't, and probably show some genuine leadership on it. But again, the challenge will be for the real estate practitioners to say, yep, I'm prepared to do that as an ongoing commitment rather than just something that got them out of trouble for 6 weeks or 6 months.
Yeah. So what are the role of the REIs in that? As president of the REIQ, what do you think the REIs should be doing in this space?
I think exactly that. I think it is exactly that. I think, it's been fascinating for me watching how the various real estate institutes have stood up really, really well through this. I think everyone's had a really good crack and shown leadership around, whether it's been around technology, the stuff we've done with Hutley or Igloo. We've taken leadership there with one-touch execution. That's been embraced well. So I think there's all sorts of opportunities for us to keep the conversation going and to work with the technology people that are putting their hands up to say, I've got something I can solve. I think there's two ways for us to win with that. One is the technology people probably should sit down and have a genuine conversation and not work as a threat, work with us, because we can open so many doors rather than competing and working against each other. So here's the moment in time for that to happen, both with the REIs and the technology providers.
Yeah. So RIQ has a different approach to technology to some of the other REIs. Talk us through some of the tech that you guys are working with.
Oh, all the trade secrets here.
Well, you mentioned Igloo before. That's what gave me the idea for the question.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, no problem. Look, we continued, we probably started to lead on this stuff, and it's been exciting to see what reach have done inside Australia. And they certainly had the dollars, the influence, and the resources to get ahead on us with that. And we're absolutely fine with that. We think what Reach are doing is working proactively. Putting technologists together with real estate people is superb. We'd love to be deeper involved in that, and we probably will be over time. What's our role? Is that the question? What's our role in it, or what are we doing with it? We continue. Our door is open to talk to people who have got a logical business case, and we're happy to work with them, whether that's through equity, whether it's through introductions, whether it's working with focus groups. But with roughly 6, 7, 8,000 members, something like that across Queensland, we have the opportunity to introduce technology people into a great cross-section of the real estate industry if they've got a product that stacks up, something that's competitive, something that's intelligent, and something that we can actually, I guess, put a proper practitioner's spin on it, if that makes sense. We see, Kylie, so many people that come in with the next big thing that's crap. But if they'd thought about it in a different perspective, or spent some time talking to us or some practitioners, they would have gone, wow, that's magnificent. So, we've got a very open mind to looking at, what technology is being explored. And some of it goes close and some of it misses. And some of it, like Hutley or Igloo, as it was initially called, has been a runaway bestseller. That one-touch execution for property management, which will eventually go into sales, has been an absolute winner, and our member offices have loved it.
Yeah. So what are the problems that you want the tech to solve next? What are the pain points in real estate that you think technologists should be looking at to support agents?
Anything that makes it a more streamlined transaction. I know that's cliche and it's doesn't sort of say too much, but anything that makes the transaction a lot more streamlined. I think one of the things I'm really excited about, and we've done it pretty well so far compared to most of the other REIs, and it's not a competition, but I love the leadership we've taken in the digital space around education of officers, around the effective use of Facebook. Working with people like myself and working with people like John Hellaby and others, opening it up and actually making our practitioners have a better understanding of what the tech is available to do, what it can do from a marketing perspective, and then arming salespeople with the right script and dialogue. They can turn up a listing presentation and say, this is the reason I want to market your property in the digital space. And here's, because I can target people between 22 and 32 who live there and there. There's so many, it's kind of scary that we've got all this available tech, yet so many salespeople nationally, internationally, really still can't explain to the seller the value proposition or why they would do it. They're simply saying, I'll spend $200 on Facebook and cross my fingers and hope like hell that it works. Well, that's not a logical reason. Tell me exactly why I should do that and how you're going to get me ahead of the pack and how it's going to benefit the sale of my own property. So, so I'm really proud of what we've done, both educating how to do it and then the words to use to effectively market that stuff. So I think for me, that's a really, really important piece. It's fine to have the tech, but unless someone can actually put it in place and use it effectively, then what was the point of the tech?
Yeah, true. Very true. So look, this year, sadly, we won't all be hanging out at Inman in Vegas, and I'm not even sure if we'll all be in New York in January at this stage, but instead we've got, Inman Connect Now, which is an online conference, but because it's in the US, it's going to be happening like in the middle of the night. What's got you excited, though, about that event, and what should Aussies and Kiwis, why should we go?
Yeah, so first up, congratulations on your appointment as being an Inman ambassador as well.
Oh, thank you. I am quietly chuffed.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. It's great recognition. I know you've graced the stage at Inman 2 or 3 times now and have done an absolute cracking job representing Australia, and it's been magnificent. And so to see you have the acknowledgement to join the ambassador team here is superb. So well done, well deserved, and an honour to work with you. I mean that sincerely. I do. What excites me about it, look, I'm going to miss being in Vegas, whether it's Vegas or New York, because, they are the 2 highlights for me each year, going to either Inman in New York or Inman Las Vegas. But we won't get to do that. But, it's amazing how we start to embrace new stuff. And the fact that we can actually get some of those guys in our time zone, because it's fascinating for the last, let's say the last 9 or 10 years, we've been going over there, pinching their stuff and bringing it back. And I'm kind of excited that you and I and Tara are going to be hosting, I think, an Australian version of Inman that allows us to showcase some of the best of Oz into the US. And I know there'll be plenty of Americans tuning in for our sessions to learn just what the Aussies are up to. So probably that excites me a bit. They'll realise that we're just not a bunch of cowboys that hang around the beach. We've actually got some really cool stuff. And they've seen...
and drink piss.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty close. But seriously, when you look at some of our really our proud exports like Rate My Agent and like Box Brownie and like Real Satisfied. Active Pipe. So we've exported some amazing products over there, and that certainly has created lots of fascination with what's happening down here. And so the ability now to showcase ourselves from an Australian perspective between June 2, 3, 4, with you and I and Tara hosting a bit of local content to broadcast to the US, I think is simply bloody exciting. And anyone who's in real estate technology in Australia needs to get on board and use some of that platform to make some noise over there as well.
Who are some of the speakers that are going to be presenting at the Inman main stage that you're really looking forward to hearing from?
I always love Mike Delpreet. He's just the best.
Oh, my God. I'm a major fangirl. Sorry, Mike. I know I've been stalking you.
Yeah, well, look, but his data is good, and it's delivered in a no BS kind of way. So really looking forward to seeing Mike. He's worth getting up at 3 a.m. for, and it takes a bit to get me up at 3 a.m. So he's outstanding. There's one that not many Aussies would have heard of. It's a very good friend of mine from Nashville, a guy called Brian Copeland. Brian will be an heir apparent as one of the soon-to-be national presidents of NAR. He's just an outstanding real estate agent and an outstanding human being and knows how to work his community and his real estate business together. So for those that aren't technology focused who just want to know how to be a better bloody human being, then don't miss Nashville Brian, or Brian Copeland as he's called. And then I see that Gary Keller has been announced as a speaker as well.
Yes. How did you find that interview last time? I kind of sat there feeling like I was watching a bit of a train wreck, and then afterwards, but I did admire how Brad handled it. I was putting myself in his position as an interviewer and thinking, oh my God.
It was, I know we can't say pissing contest, but it was a bit of a pissing contest between two boys from wasn't it? But they're both very wise men with both lots of wisdom. And so, look, I thought it was just interesting to watch two blokes go for it. Was there lots of information? No. Did Brad challenge him around whether they're a technology company? Yes. But I look at anyone that's built the empire that he's built, Keller, and that he's written, and sit back and say, I have something to learn from this man. So we can get those kind of people. Of course, then I'm really keen. I'm not sure who's speaking from Compass. I don't know who's up from Compass, but they are a fascinating business to watch, and that could be for good reasons and for bad reasons. But it's just a fascinating business to watch how their growth has been. I look at them and go, they've grown rapidly, but I'm a big believer in culture, and I don't know that you can buy. Well, I know you can't buy culture, and so whilst they've grown in numbers, I'm not sure that the culture is strong in the business. And to survive, you've got to be a great culture. So that'll be interesting to see just where they're at in their journey, several years on.
As a real estate agent, you need to be doing more content marketing. But creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial. Or click the link in our show notes. And so look, before we talked about where the kind of majority of the bell curve we're at, what are you seeing at the moment that is at that leading, bleeding edge right now?
Oh, what am I seeing at the leading, bleeding edge right now? It's sort of going to sound really corny. The people that aren't doing videos that are doing movies. There you go. I think that's
Oh,
kind
wow.
of,
Okay. The full feature.
yeah, they're going next level. Is that crazy? No, it's not. I think I think the days for the franchises, they're not numbered, but by crikey, there are so many top operators who are now looking at their franchises and going, are you giving me anything other than just average? And so those genuine entrepreneurs are going out and creating some really cool experiences. They're creating great movies. They're providing 7-star service experiences for people. They're doing the stuff that makes people go, wow. And if you want to get top dollar in this business, you got to be wow. And so, it's the movie stuff, it's the 7-star experiences, it's the concierge, it's the seamless processes. I'm also, excited to see a few companies around, and I won't mention them because they probably want me to keep this quiet. Some that are changing their business model dramatically and saying, my salespeople are really, really good at presenting and negotiating, and they're crap at prospecting on all the other stuff. And so they're now putting prospecting teams in place who are doing all that hard slog. They're doing the seduction, they're doing the maintenance, they're doing the networking, they're doing all the nurturing, and then handing qualified leads across. So the people that are really good at presenting and negotiating are just doing those bits on a vastly changed business model. Because, Kylie, I'm not sure how sustainable the current business model is, where more and more salespeople are asking for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% and whatever. It's simply not sustainable. And so the model needs to change. It comes back to paying people to do basic prospecting stuff and nurturing stuff, and we'll pay a different fee that won't be anywhere near like 70, 80 or 90% to those that close. So I think that'll be really fascinating to see just how that plays, but I'm seeing more and more do that kind of stuff, being really clear about what people do rather than saying to a real estate person, I want you to do everything. Because we know facts of life are, we can see it, they don't.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the trends that I'm seeing in the space at the moment now, is that we're moving away from even the technology, but certainly, the technology is no longer generalist. It's becoming more and more specific. So, the technology is becoming an inch wide and a mile deep at being really great at what it does. And at the same time, we're seeing job descriptions and the roles that we need people to do to becoming more focused and more structured, not just kind of a jack of all trades inside an office, so that we are seeing that specialization. And when you take that approach to your business, then things like AI become easier to introduce, because you're starting to really support people to do what they're great at.
It takes a certain level of bravery for business owners to actually take control of their business back and say, this is what we're going to do. And it's, there's a whole range of things. I've looked at our industry, obviously, for 30, 40 years now, of anyone that veers slightly left or right of the main line is crazy. They get poo-pooed and lambasted, and you're a clown and you're an outrage. All this stuff goes on. And so we tend to keep to the swim lane and not change or not do too much different. But you got to have a crack. And so, I'd be saying, don't worry about what everyone else says if you want to go slightly into another lane or do things differently. Just bloody well do it. And if those people don't want to stay with you in your business, then let them go and find other people that want to be with your tribes. But tribes are where it's at, and people that follow your path is where it's at. And so you've got to be brave enough to say, stuff them all. I'm going to do it my way. This is what I think adds up. This is the considered advice that I've had, and these are the reasons I'm going to do it. And if people want to join you, fantastic. If they don't, fantastic. But get going. But don't get stuck in this rut of just saying, I'm not game to do it any other way because they might poo-poo me on Facebook and tell me I'm silly. Just have a crack. Purple bricks is a great example. Now, I'm no proponent of purple bricks, but look at the crap that they copped when they came in. They're just a different model. So let's have a crack at doing things differently, because for most offices, for a big percentage of offices, some have really just bought themselves a job rather than bought themselves a business. So do you want to have a job, or are you creating yourself a business or a company? If that's the case, then do it your way.
Yeah. Fantastic advice. And so, Pete, one last question. What do you think the future looks like for the real estate institutes?
Oh, I actually think
how are
it's
they
really,
going to
really
modernise themselves?
I keep looking around the country, obviously, to see what the others are up to, and I think, let me just talk from a Queensland perspective. We have a changing of the guard, and that's to no disrespect to those that have been before us up here. We are simply having a change of the guard. There are a change of people coming into our industry. I think something like better than 52% of our membership base here in Queensland is female. So why wouldn't you make sure that we've actually got proper representation of females on our board? We changed our constitution to ensure that was the case. We look at all these young people who are these days, and most people don't get excited about being part of associations, whether it's your local RSL club or your football club. People generally don't feel inclined to join those associations or clubs or institutes like ours. So we're going to make it interesting for those people. So we made sure we've got under 35s represented on our board. We are a 102-year-old organisation that has to think like a startup. And so the things that we're doing with Facebook Live, being stronger in advocacy, more online events, we've all but ditched our face-to-face training in favour of online training. And the feedback has been superb and people love that stuff. So look, I think the future is rosy if you're prepared to listen to what people want. But if you're an institute that sits and says, that's the way we've always done it round here, old boy, then you're in serious trouble. And that doesn't matter whether it's Australia or New Zealand, the United States. You can sit back and wax lyrical about the good old days. You can say stuff has changed and changed with it. And look, we stir things up a bit here. I won't wear a tie. I won't wear a suit or rarely wear a suit, we're a bit different in what we do, but that's what the market likes. That's what the market's responding to. During the COVID crisis, our work there, I think we grew in 1 week by 100-odd members who said, love what you're about, love what you're doing, love how you represent the industry. We're on board, So to actually grow membership at a time where we thought we might actually lose membership through people not being able to afford to pay their bills, we're pretty excited about what the future is for us.
That's fantastic. Well done. And I think that's great advice too for not just for REIs, but even for anyone in the real estate business. If you think that, no, we don't need to change, it's not the way we've always done it, that's also a pretty good sign that absolutely everything needs to change, and probably sooner rather than later.
No, they are the most dangerous words in any business. They are, in fact, it is slide number 4 on my most recent deck. Is that what are the 9 most dangerous words you'll hear in any business? That's the way we've always done around here. And whether that's the crap we shove in people's letterboxes and call it modern marketing, please leave me alone, But people are still out there. I'm saying, when's the last time that someone came racing in your door with that bit of crap that you shoved in the letterbox and saying, oh my God, I can't wait to list with you. You're going to be in my street next Thursday offering free appraisals. Like, it just doesn't frigging happen. Or if it does, it certainly doesn't justify the $1,000 spend that gets put into that kind of marketing. But I ask, why do you do it? And they say, because that's the way we've always done around here. Guys, consumers want stuff differently. They respond to stuff differently. They ain't your vintage anymore. So get on board with what modern marketing is. So, change. Love it. It's exciting. And if we, please, if you're listening to this now, don't waste this crisis. Don't waste this opportunity to learn. Don't waste this time to sit down with your consumers and your people and say, what have we learned from this? What are we going to change straight away? Throw out the rule book and bring in a new one.
Yeah, and what are we going to keep that we just learned how to do differently? What are we going to take with us as we go into the new, into back to normal, but whatever the new normal is?
As my kids would say, totes.
Thanks so much for your time, Peter Brewer. It's been fabulous to have you on the show.
Anytime, Kylie. Thanks for the opportunity. It's been a blast, and always love catching up with you. And for those that's listening, hey, make sure you tune in to Kylie, and I'll have a few bits to say, but tune in to Kylie and Tara and I during Edmund. It's June 2, 3 and 4, and we will have a blast talking about some of the cool stuff happening in Oz and the US.
Fantastic. Speak to you soon. Thanks so much, Peter. So that was Peter Brewer, President of the REIQ, real estate trainer, Inman ambassador, and all-round great guy. Peter has been hugely influential in my career. When we first met when I was at CoreLogic, and we plotted to encourage more Aussies to attend Inman and use the CoreLogic marketing budget rather liberally, as I recall, to deliver some fantastic networking events that created a real sense of community. The Aussies at Inman is still a banner, proudly waved by the Box Brownie crew boys. I've always admired Peter's determination to replicate the inclusive sense of community back here in Australia and to challenge old stereotypes. He is truly a great listener, and having a yarn with Peter and Tara, his partner, is one of my favourite reasons to visit Brisbane. He's a living embodiment, as he himself admits, that you can teach an old dog new tricks. Now, the three of us, Tara, Peter and I, are very excited to be putting an Australian flavour to the Inman Connect Now conference, and we'd love you to join us on June 2, 3 and 4. Now, don't worry, you don't need to wake up at 3 a.m. to take part. Everything will be available on demand in our time zone, and Tara, Peter and I will be summarising and doing some special interviews with key guests to provide local content to what's happening on the main stage. And we'd love you to join us, and a special link to tickets is connected in the show notes. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech Podcast, I'd love you to tell your friends. I'd love you to drop me a line via email, kylie@realcontent.guru, or reach out on LinkedIn or on my Facebook page. You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor and Apple iTunes, or at kyliedavis.com.au. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie Hollins, and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors, Smidge Wines, proud to be the official wine of Australian PropTech, my new sponsor, Direct Connect, making moving connections easy, and Home Prezzo, of course, turning your data into amazing marketing content, which has never been more important than in these days of social isolation. So thanks, everyone. Until next week, stay safe and keep on PropTeching.